November 12, 1974, the Houston Astrodome was packed with 18,000 fans, lights blazing, a storm of anticipation. Then, mid-set, a small wheelchair rolled forward, unaccompanied. What happened next stunned the crowd into dead silence. Elvis, the king himself, left the stage and walked straight to the child. The moment would change hearts forever. Elvis had just launched into the third song of the evening at the Houston Astrodome. November 12, 1974, the arena smelled of popcorn, leather, and perfume, each scent layering atop the other, thick with excitement. 18,000 fans shifted in their seats, waving scarves, homemade signs, and glimmering wristbands that caught the stage lights like sparks in the night. Cameras flashed intermittently, their clicks mixing with the faint hum of mic feedback and the steady pulse of the bass from the band behind him. James Burton's guitar riffs sliced through the air, Glenn Hardin's keys shimmering under the spotlight, each note punctuating the crowd's eager chants. The stage itself was a canvas of spectacle, sequined, jackets glittering like constellations, a maze of lights casting shifting shadows across the arena floor. Elvis leaned into the mic, voice smooth and commanding, yet alive with warmth. The fans responded, a living, breathing chorus of devotion. Somewhere in the tumult, a small movement went almost unnoticed. A child, silently rolling forward, inches away from the stage edge. Amid the roaring energy, time seemed to pulse differently. One could almost feel the electricity in the air, a tension threading through the throng. The murmurs swelled into anticipation, a collective heartbeat shared by thousands. Side musicians exchanged glances. They had performed in packed venues before, but tonight carried an unusual charge. Something unseen was unfolding, a human story waiting to break the surface. Have you ever been part of a moment so charged that every breath seemed amplified, every heartbeat shared by strangers? The crowd leaned forward, the chants rising and falling, but a subtle awareness began to ripple. Among the mass of fans, security was vigilant, scanning faces and movements. And yet, in the very front row, a single child's movement caught only one pair of eyes, Elvis Presley's, amidst the roaring crowd. The small wheelchair continued its quiet advance, unaware of the thousands watching and of the king already noticing in the front row. A small wheelchair rolled forward, gaining momentum along the smooth concrete floor of the Astrodome. The child, no more than 7 or 8, leaned slightly forward, hands gripping the wheels. For most of the 18,000-strong audience, it was a fleeting blur, just another motion in the sea of waving hands and fluttering scarves. But Elvis noticed instantly. His eyes narrowed, scanning the small figure inching closer to the stage edge. Security tensed immediately, muscles coiled in anticipation. Joe Esposito, Elvis's longtime road manager, whispered urgently into the king's ear, his voice tight with concern. Cameras around the arena caught the wheel spinning erratically, the child's small frame wobbling slightly as the mother, Mary Jennings, shouted from the stands, panic in her voice. Every note of Elvis's song seemed suspended midair, the rhythm hanging by a thread. The crowd, oblivious at first, began to sense the shift. Murmurs spread through rows like wildfire, subtle at first, then louder as the tension rippled. Some fans rose to their feet, craning to see what had startled the stage, their excitement morphing into apprehension. The music stuttered for a fraction of a beat as Elvis paused mid-verse, the microphone picking up a faint hiss of feedback. The band, sensing something extraordinary, instinctively slowed their tempo. Elvis's gaze locked on the child, eyes softening but filled with quiet authority. For a moment, the arena held its collective breath. Thousands of voices hung in suspended anticipation, caught between the pull of spectacle and the silent demand for empathy. The king's decision was imminent, unspoken yet monumental. What would you do if a moment demanded both courage and compassion? How often do heroes perceive what the crowd overlooks? Security hesitated, caught between protocol and instinct. Some were ready to rush forward, others frozen, unsure if intervention was necessary. The child's small wheels rolled closer to the edge, and Mary Jennings's frantic hand gestures cut through the crowd's murmur. Elvis slowly took a step forward, signaling with a gentle hand wave for the band to pause completely. The arena went dead silent, the usual roar replaced by an expectant hush. In front of 18,000 eyes. Elvis took a step off the stage, alone. A single movement that would soon be remembered forever. The stadium's energy shifted instantly, a pendulum swinging from excitement to anxious tension. 18,000 fans leaned forward in their seats, breaths caught between anticipation and worry. Security teams froze, unsure whether to intervene or trust the instincts of the king. Whispers and murmurs rippled through the crowd like a tide, voices rising and falling in a collective heartbeat. Somewhere above, the lights flickered, casting long shadows that danced across the polished concrete floor, highlighting the child's small, unsteady wheelchair inching closer to the stage. Joe Esposito, Elvis's trusted road manager, sprinted to the edge of the stage, his eyes wide. "Elvis, stop," he whispered, urgency coating each syllable. But the king, sequined jacket shimmering under the arena lights, shook his head subtly, motioning for them to stay back. There was no hesitation in his step, only a quiet resolve. The band, sensing the tension, slowed their rhythm, strings and drums fading into a delicate hum, leaving space for the drama unfolding at the stage's edge. From the stands, faint cries from Mary Jennings. The child's mother reached the arena air. The crowd reacted instinctively. Some voices rose in alarm, others whispered encouragement, yet all were caught in the uncertainty of what would happen next. The child's wheelchair wobbled slightly, the momentum pressing forward with the smallest hint of danger. Security's hesitation became palpable, a frozen tableau where seconds felt like minutes. Elvis paused mid-step, his gaze locking onto the child. Every fan in the front rows could see it, the king himself, the legendary figure who had performed in sold-out arenas across the country, now facing a moment no rehearsed protocol could prepare for. His hand reached slowly toward the child, a gesture both tender and authoritative. The arena went dead silent. Camera flashes stuttered across the darkness, capturing the tension, each click a heartbeat in the frozen tableau. The crowd's reaction shifted subtly, uncertainty giving way to awe. Murmurs softened into a collective intake of breath. Would he step back, or would he act? The stadium's collective pulse seemed to sync with his every movement, every decision loaded with expectation. Every pair of eyes traced the scene, every fan holding the fragile balance of hope and fear. How does a leader choose between rules and humanity in a split second? What part of our own instinct do we suppress when fear and protocol collide? In a moment that would be captured in press clippings and bootleg recordings, Elvis stepped fully off the stage. The band remained frozen, instruments hanging in mid-note, as the king approached the small wheelchair. The child's hands grasped the rims instinctively, eyes wide in recognition and awe. Fans leaned over the barricades, some calling out, some holding their hands to their mouths, the arena's energy a mix of disbelief and admiration. Security, unsure whether to intervene or follow orders, watched as the unscripted unfolded. Every movement carried immense weight, not just for the child, but for the thousands witnessing an act of genuine compassion in real time. The child's mother reached forward, voice trembling, yet unable to cross the barricade. The king's presence alone was a calm force amid the electric tension in front of thousands. Elvis did the unthinkable. He knelt beside the child, pausing for a heartbeat that seemed to stretch time itself. A gesture that would ripple far beyond that Houston night. Elvis knelt beside the child, sequined jacket catching the spotlight, glimmering like scattered stars across the polished stage floor. The arena, 18,000 voices strong just moments before, went dead silent. Time itself seemed to slow as the king extended his hand, helping the child from the wheelchair with a gentle, deliberate care. Cameras clicked furiously, capturing a gesture so intimate and human it would later be circulated in press clippings and bootleg recordings. Remembered as the viral hug before viral existed. The child's eyes widened in wonder, small hands gripping Elvis's as if seeking assurance. A nervous giggle escaped, echoing faintly against the cavernous space, swallowed quickly by the stunned quiet. Strings swelled subtly from the orchestra pit, soft and emotive, underscoring the moment without overwhelming it. Every fan, from the back rows to the front, felt the shift. The show had paused, not out of performance, but for something infinitely greater. Elvis adjusted the child gently on his knees, cradling him with care. Short, punchy bursts punctuated the scene. The child laughed. Elvis laughed. The stadium exhaled. Murmurs rose, soft and tentative at first, then building into applause, a spontaneous wave of recognition. This was more than a concert. It had become a living testament to empathy. Fans held scarves aloft, some wiping away tears, others whispering words of awe and admiration. The child's mother, Mary Jennings, reached the barricade, her hands trembling as she called out thanks, her voice carrying through the hush of the arena. When faced with choice, which side of your heart do you let lead? How often do we act with courage simply because someone's humanity demands it? Elvis, sensing the crowd's quiet engagement, looked up and smiled, not the practiced performer's grin, but one born of sincerity. He leaned closer to the child, whispering words lost to the audience, but understood in every heart present. The fans responded instinctively, a rising chorus of recognition and solidarity. Some began to hum an early Elvis hit, tentative at first, then swelling into full voice as more joined in, creating a spontaneous symphony of admiration and joy. The scene on stage became a dance of human connection. The child leaned into the king's embrace, safe and secure, while the audience collectively shifted from passive spectators to participants in an unspoken celebration of compassion. The moment was brief, a heartbeat in time, yet carried the weight of decades. A story that would be retold endlessly in words, photographs, and memories. Then, from somewhere in the crowd, a single fan's voice rang out in song, and the arena followed. The performance, the pause, the embrace, all of it transformed into a shared act of humanity that no one present would ever forget. That moment rippled outward like a wave, transforming the stadium into something larger than a concert. 18,000 fans, previously caught in anticipation and tension, now became witnesses to a quiet revolution of empathy. People rose to their feet, waving scarves, hats, and signs high above their heads. A gesture not of chaos, but of solidarity. Nurses and ushers moved closer to the front, ensuring the child was comfortable, while strangers leaned over to offer a reassuring hand to Mary Jennings, the child's mother. The collective energy had shifted from spectacle to human connection. Elvis remained kneeling, whispering softly, each word invisible yet palpable. The child's laughter rang out again, a pure note cutting through the arena air, joined by soft applause, tentative at first, then swelling as the crowd embraced the moment. Camera flashes illuminated the scene sporadically, capturing a gesture that was as much about community as it was about the king himself. Each image, whether press clipping or bootleg, carried the weight of what had transpired, an act of kindness that transcended performance. Fans began to sing along to an early Elvis hit, voices rising and weaving together, creating an unexpected symphony that elevated the scene. From the back rows to the front, people leaned toward one another, sharing glances, tears, and smiles. This was not just a concert anymore. It had become a living testament to compassion, a shared experience where the barrier between performer and audience dissolved. Side characters, James Burton strumming the guitar softly, Glenn Hardin adjusting the keys, Joe Esposito standing quietly nearby, a mixture of admiration and awe on their faces. They were part of the tableau, but also witnesses to the transformation. The arena itself seemed to breathe, every light, every shadow, every ripple of the crowd amplifying the emotion. In that instant, the child in the wheelchair was no longer just a child. He had become the center of a communal heartbeat, connecting thousands through a simple human gesture. Can one act of empathy ripple across thousands, changing the tone of an entire room? What moments in your life have had unseen effects on those around you? The lights shifted subtly, the stage bathed in a warmer glow, framing the embrace in a cinematic clarity that would linger in memory. Fans waved signs, some homemade, some hastily scribbled, all symbols of recognition and shared humanity. Photographs captured it, not just as an image, but as a story, a message that kindness could puncture fear and protocol alike. The child's mother, surrounded by strangers, allowed herself to cry, tears of relief and joy merging with the cheers of the arena. As the lights dimmed for the next song, the crowd's applause refused to fade, a testament to the unspoken understanding that this night and this embrace had changed them all forever. The embrace at the Houston Astrodome did not fade with the final notes of the concert. It rippled far beyond that night. Newspapers recounted the story, describing how Elvis, the king, had paused mid-performance to cradle a small child in his arms. Radio stations replayed the tale, listeners imagining the pause, the quiet hush, and the ripple of awe that swept through 18,000 witnesses. Fan magazines immortalized the moment, pairing photos with headlines that read, "Elvis Presley's compassion captures Houston." Bootleg recordings circulated, each click and hiss of tape carrying the echo of laughter and applause from that night. Years later, a plaque was unveiled at the Astrodome. Elvis Presley, Houston Astrodome. November 12, 1974. A hug that changed forever. The simple gesture became legendary, not because of publicity or performance, but because it revealed a layer of humanity that fame alone could not reach. Side characters like Joe Esposito, who had guided Elvis through countless performances, recalled the night with reverence, describing the king's deliberate choice to act, to kneel, and to connect. Mary Jennings, the child's mother, shared stories of how strangers approached her long after the concert, recounting how witnessing that embrace had shifted their perception of heroism and compassion. The ripple effect extended even further. Fans recreated similar gestures at concerts, inspired by the King's example. The story became a blueprint for empathy in public life, proving that a small act could echo through communities, reminding audiences that kindness was often the most memorable part of any spectacle. Memorabilia collectors treasured the images, the sequined jacket, the wheelchair in faded photographs, and the handwritten fan signs as relics of a night when humanity overshadowed entertainment. What moments from your own life have rippled in ways you couldn't anticipate? How can a single act of kindness extend far beyond its original context? Even decades later, fans recount the Houston night, each retelling carrying the same emotional weight, like a story passed down through generations. The embrace had become emblematic, a legend woven into the broader narrative of Elvis's career, not for the songs he sang, but for the hearts he touched. In that moment, celebrity and humanity intersected perfectly, creating a memory that transformed how people thought about empathy, courage, and the power of presence. The embrace was over. The child safely returned to his mother, and the next song began, yet the echo of that night, the warmth, the compassion, and the communal heartbeat, had only just begun to spread beyond Houston's walls. The Houston embrace reminds us that true greatness is measured not by fame, hits, or glitter, but by the courage to act when empathy calls. Even in front of 18,000 people, Elvis demonstrated that kindness can puncture fear, silence protocol, and rewrite expectations. We are left reflecting, how often do we choose compassion when society whispers caution? Moments like these become viral not because of cameras, but because hearts recognize heart. Moments of genuine compassion are timeless. Share this story with someone who needs a reminder that empathy changes everything. Let it inspire you to notice the small opportunities around you to step forward, to embrace, to act, because even one heartfelt gesture can ripple through thousands of lives.